Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Hope you're all well. Today in this video I thought I would share with you a knitting tutorial. This is how to knit a preemie hat. So these are for the very small babies. I've been looking up kind of the donations of little preemie hats for the NICU inside some of the hospitals, and I thought I would share kind of my pattern that I'm using with you all as well. So this is a beginner tutorial as well, so anyone from any level can join in. So we're going to learn how to cast on today. We're going to learn the rib stitch, which is this super stretchy stitch which is perfect for the hat. So in this video you will need some knitting needles. I have 4mm knitting needles here, just because that's the size that I'm using. I have some DK weight yarn. I will leave a link in the description box down below for this yarn because it's the super snuggly, I think it's something like Feels Like Butter yarn. It's amazing and I thought it would be perfect to use for these hats. You'll need a pair of scissors and you'll also need a darning needle so that we can sew it all together and make these super cute little preemie hats. Okay then, so for knitting, if you're an absolute beginner, we're going to start very slow and I'm going to teach you step by step. So the first thing you are going to need is your single knitting needle. So we're going to learn to cast on to begin with, and this is what we're going to need. You can do casting on with 2 needles, but I'm going to use the one method. If you do have your own way, you can of course use that. So what we're going to do is take our yarn and we're going to leave a nice long length. So to cast on we are going to need 40 stitches, but we're also going to leave a little bit of a length of our tail, hopefully, so that we can sew up our hat with that tail at the end. So don't worry if your measurements aren't too exact, you can always take it off your needle and start again. Or if you reach your 40 stitches and you don't have a long enough tail, at the end, don't worry either, because you can always add on an extra piece of yarn. But I'm going to leave a nice long length just so that I have enough to work with. It's better to have too much than too little. So I've got a nice long length of yarn, and then we're going to make a slip knot. You can do that in whichever way that you prefer, but this is the way that this is easier to show. So you're going to make a loop, crossing one piece over the next. You're going to reach through your loop. You're going to pull this side of your yarn through the loop, and you're just going to make a loop there. And now we're ready to insert onto the knitting needle. Insert your needle and pull on that yarn nice and gently. So you want your stitches to be able to move on your needle slightly but not slip and fall off. So then we're going to begin with our cast on. So if you are absolutely new to knitting, don't worry, I will leave a link also in the description box down below of how to do the basics, like casting on and the basic stitches as well, which I do have on my channel. But I will go through slowly with you how to cast on, but if you are still struggling then you should go and check out those videos. So we're going to cast on now. So with these 3 fingers you're going to grasp both pieces of yarn, and then with these 2 fingers you're going to go through the middle of them. You're going to open out your fingers, making kind of like a gun shape with one single finger, and then you're going to bring your needle down to make this shape. So you've got these 3 fingers wrapped around both of these 2 pieces, you've got these 2 fingers through those pieces opened out, and you've brought your knitting needle down. Now to cast on, we're going to go under this piece of yarn first, so through this loop. We're going to circle round and catch down through that loop, and we're going to go back through that loop there. Don't worry if you didn't get that, I will show you again. Then you can gently pull on your yarn to tighten the loop. Again, not too tight but not too loose either. Find your position again. You're going to go through this loop here, like so. You're going to go down past that loop, catching that piece of yarn there, and you're going to go back through that loop here. Let your fingers go and just gently pull that loop down. You've casted on 3 stitches already. Go up through this loop here, down through that loop there and back down through the loop you came through before, pulling gently on the stitches. That is 4 stitches that we've casted on. I will show you a few more. You are working up to a total of 40 stitches. So pause the video here. You are going to cast on a total of 40 stitches and I will meet you back when you've finished that. Okay then, so I've just casted on my 40 stitches and we're ready to begin knitting. So now we're ready to introduce our second needle. So we're going to hold this needle with the stitches on our left side and we're going to use our working needle on our right side. And this is how it's going to look. So just pushing our stitches up slightly. So what you need to be careful with here is that you're using the right end of yarn. So you have 2 pieces. This is what's called your tail end. This is where you've casted on from and you're going to use this later to sew up your piece. And then you have your ball end, which is connected to the ball of yarn. And you want to work with this one, not this one. You want to leave this one alone. It's only an issue when you're first starting the first row. So you're going to insert your hook, insert your needle into this first stitch, and we're going to work a knit stitch into our first stitch. So that means that the needle goes up away from us. We wrap around anti-clockwise. We're going to push our needle down, and we're going to slide that stitch off. That is our knit stitch. So with a rib stitch, we're alternating between knit stitches and purl stitches. So what we need to do is move our yarn to the front. So simply to do this, we just bring it around to the front. I haven't done anything there, I haven't made any new stitches. I've just brought that yarn forward. So now we can work our purl stitch. So into this next stitch here, we're going to go down, not up, we're going to go down. We're going to go wrap around anti-clockwise. We're going to push the needle up and we're going to slide off. So now we have it in purl position, we need to get it in knit position, so we're going to bring it to the back. Again, I haven't made any new stitches, I've just brought the yarn to the back. So now we can work into this stitch here, yarn over, push down and slide off. Now we need to bring it to the front, working a purl stitch. Bring the yarn to the back, working a knit stitch. So pause the video here, work that all the way along, alternating between knit stitches and purl stitches, and I will meet you back when I've got to the end of my row. Okay, so I'm just coming to the end of my row and I just have 1 stitch left. It's a purl stitch. So I'm just going to bring my yarn forward and work a purl stitch in that stitch. Like so. And now we've worked row number 1. So we're going to continue this for 28 rows. Is how long your piece is going to be. But I'm just going to begin you off on your second row, just so that you can clarify a few things. So you're going to begin every row with a knit stitch, and that should continue your pattern. Because you're going to work knit stitches into the knit stitches and purl stitches into the purl stitches. I know that can be a little bit confusing, but for some stitches with knitting you work opposite, or you might work 1 stitch for one row and 1 stitch for another row, so it can be a little bit confusing. What I like to do is the tip where if you ever get lost on what stitch you're on, when you can see the little V, that's a knit stitch, and when you can see the little bump, that's a purl stitch. and that should help you. So I can see that I've got a little V. I also know that I'm beginning every row with a knit stitch anyway, so the first stitch is easiest. So we can work a knit stitch into that stitch, and then I can bring it forward, so I know I'm working a purl anyway. But just to clarify, I have a little bump on the row previous, so I know to work a purl. So I hope that helps. If you ever get lost on your row where you are, you can just look down, you see you've got a V, so you can work a knit stitch. So I'm going to continue working this for 28 rows, and then I'm going to meet you back and we can cast off and piece our little hat together. But pause the video here, work this rib stitch for 28 rows, alternating between knit stitches and purl stitches, and I will meet you back when you've finished that. Okay then, so once you've completed your 28 rows of the ribbed stitch, we are going to cast off and begin constructing our preemie hat. So if I just show you, we're just going to do a simple cast off with the knit stitch all the way along. So that consists of inserting your knitting needle away from you, so it's going away from you. You're going to wrap round, push down, catching that stitch, and slide the stitch off. That is one knit stitch. We're going to work 2 knit stitches. So insert your needle, wrap around, work down, and push off. So now all we need to do to cast off is we need to bring this back loop over the front loop and off the needle, so that we can begin getting the work off of the needle. So we're going to take that one, you can do it with your finger, but I like to do it with my needle, and we're just going to slide that gently over that stitch like so. So now we're going to work another knit stitch. So insert your knitting needle, wrap around, push down, and slide off. Now we have 2 loops on our needle. We're going to slide this back loop. Can be a little bit tricky when they're a bit tight, and slide it over the first loop like so. Work another knit stitch, and slide that back loop over the first loop. Work another knit stitch, slide that back loop over the first loop, and you're going to work that all the way along until you have no stitches left on your needle, and then you have casted off your work. So pause the video here, work that all the way along until you reach the end, and I will meet you back when you've casted off your piece. Okay, so your work should be looking something like this. All you're going to do is take your scissors and, giving a nice long length of yarn to work with, just snip that, and you're going to, what I like to do is remove my needle, and I'm just going to kind of make a loop. So you see this loop that we have here left, I'm going to feed my length of yarn through that like so, and then you can just pull that nice and tightly to secure that down. So now we have our piece of work, we can get ready to begin sewing our piece together, which is super simple. We're just going to construct the hat now. Okay, so we need to sew along 2 different sides to kind of make the hat. So all we're going to do is fold it in half, and we're going to sew along the top edge of the hat, and then we're also going to sew along this side. So what's super helpful is that we've left 2 long pieces of yarn, so we can use those pieces from where we cast it on and cast it off in order to sew the hat together. So what I'm going to focus on first is the top ridge. So I'm going to thread my needle and then I'm going to show you how to sew. So you can sew in any way. You can go in, out, in, out. I like to do kind of a bit more of a whip stitch with my sewing, just because I feel like that gets a nicer look, but you can do any way you're comfortable with. So I'm just going to begin by working into the opposite side. So securing that down. And with the whip kind of look, what we do is we go over to this side that we're working on. So like usual, you would go from this side to this side, then from this side to this side. What you're going to do is work through this way, then you're going to bring your needle back around and you're going to work through this side again. So finding your stitches, just lining them up. There's not really an exact way to do this, just whichever way you feel comfortable, and from where you can see the stitches as well. So I've just gone through that way. Now I'm going to bring my needle back around. Like so. Bring my needle back around. And I'm working through, if I show you closely, if I bring my needle back around, I'm working through this loop here, so this back loop, and then this back loop of this side one as well. So here you can see I've made it along the whole edge of my piece, and I'm just going to sew in this end so that it doesn't come loose. So you can just weave in and out of your stitches. And then we can begin working along this edge now. This edge is basically worked in the exact same way, but you're just working with different stitches, but you can use the same method. Again, if you have a sewing technique that works better for you, of course use that. This is just what works for me, and for little pieces like this one. So I'm going to continue working that all the way along, and I will meet you back when I have sewn up my edge. Okay then, so I just finished sewing up my side like so, and I'm just going to sew in this end again like I said, to secure that down. And then you have finished, so you finish sewing. So what I like to do is just tuck up this bottom edge, just gently tuck up a small layer and play around with it, and then you have your finished hat. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you found it helpful and you might make a few of your own. Obviously this is a knitting tutorial, so if you do want me to make a similar video to this for a crochet preemie hat, then I can do. Let me know in the comments down below. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join this wonderful crafting community, and I'll see you all very soon with another video. Thank you. Bye.